I'm continuing in my reading, and what this series is I'm reading through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order according to events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be jumping around just a little bit. I have read the beginning of the world's history. I am currently in the book of Exodus. This will be chapter 2. Moses is born to Levite parents, raised by Pharaoh's daughter. In defense of an Israelite, he slays an Egyptian, flees to Midian, and marries Zipporah. Israel in bondage, cries to the Lord. Okay. A lot of stuff here, but should be fairly familiar, so let's see how it goes. And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son, and when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off, to wit what would be done to him. Okay, the flags, alternate Hebrew translation is reeds. So the Nile is not a really deep river, and for much of its length, the shores have reeds growing in them. These reeds are a water-based plant. They generally grow in the shallow waters on the edges of ponds and rivers. So she placed him in the reeds by the side of the river. Now, there's no indication that he floated down the river at all. There's no indication that he crossed the river. He may have. We don't know. There's just nothing in here that states he did. All it states is that she put him in the reeds, and his sister watched to see what would happen. Verse 5. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, This is one of the Hebrews' children. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the maid went, and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away, and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, and she said, Because I drew him out of the water. And of course, the name Moses, I like this, in Egyptian means to beget a child, to have a child. But in Hebrew, it means to draw out. So we have a dual meaning here. Now, a couple other things. I want to go back just briefly. They hid the child for 3 months before they put him in the reeds. Now, this was partly because if they just put him in the reeds, he would have been too weak to survive even a day or two. So when he was strong enough, they put him in the reeds. But this also is an indication, as I said in my previous video, that the casting of the children into the river wasn't a single day. She hid him for 3 months because if he was revealed, he would have been tossed into the river with the rest of the kids. So it was going on for several months that Pharaoh had this standing order to kill all children born to the Israelites, all male children born to the Israelites. Now, I will also say, the Egyptians, as I said, at this time, the Egyptian Pharaoh was probably a descendant of Ham again. And so when Pharaoh's daughter adopts Moses, Moses is Hebrew. He is Semitic. The descendants of Ham are of a dark skin. They were black. Moses wasn't. Pharaoh adopts Moses. There's no question. I don't think anybody in Pharaoh's court thought that Moses was literally the son of Pharaoh's daughter. I think visually speaking, it was kind of obvious to tell. Now, she might have been able to pass it off as her son, saying that she had a son by a Hebrew man. That's possible. But Moses would have stood out among the Egyptians. Now, it is also true that by this time, the northern Egyptians or the northern Africans were intermarrying with the family of Japheth to a certain extent. So there may have been the Egyptians at this time, the true Egyptians, may not have been as dark of skin as the sub-Saharan Africans were. But still, I think Moses, he would have stood out to some degree. Anyways, verse 11. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens. And he said, an Egyptian, and he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Okay, what's going on here? There's a few details. In most popular media, they get these details a little wrong. I think the movie, The 10 Commandments, did the best job. But first of all, if you'll recall in my video reading the Joseph Smith translation of Genesis chapter 50, Joseph prophesied not only of the name of Moses, but of the name of Aaron, his brother. He prophesied that Moses would be raised as the daughter of Pharaoh. He gave all these very detailed prophecies. Moses, his nurse, was his true mother. His biological mother nursed him. He knew who he was. He knew he was a Hebrew. And as I said before, he stood out. He knew he was a Hebrew. And he knew that he was the prophesied deliverer who was going to lead Israel out of Egypt. This was not a secret. He knew who he was. And when he went out and he saw the Egyptian beating up a Hebrew, thinking that it was his job to free the rest of Israel, he's thinking, hey, I am the deliverer. Here's my chance. Here's my first step in delivering Israel. He looks around. He makes sure that he's not seen, and he kills the Egyptian. This was him kind of attempting to be the deliverer that he knew he was going to be. He knew the prophecy was about him. He knew he was going to be the deliverer. He thought that he was going to do it this way. But it is found out. Even the other Israelites, the other Hebrews there, they are upset at what he did. Well, the one guy that's in the wrong is, oh, you got to kill me too? And it is revealed. And now Pharaoh wants to kill Moses because apparently, Moses was raised as the son of the daughter of Pharaoh, but he was still a Hebrew. And it is found out that he murdered an Egyptian. I think he killed him justly. I think he had just cause, but he killed the Egyptian. And in the eyes of Pharaoh, that was murder. And so he hunts down Moses, but Moses flees and he goes to the land of Midian. And if you will recall this also, Midian was a son of Abraham. And so the tribe of Midian, when he comes in here, these are descendants of Abraham. They are other Hebrews of a different tribe. Let us try getting through this chapter here. Verse 16. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the trough to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, How is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, And where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man. And he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. Gershom means a sojourner there. That's the meaning of the name. So he defends the daughters and the flocks of the priest of Midian. Now, in other places in the Joseph Smith translation, he is called the high priest of Midian, but priest of Midian, high priest of Midian means basically the same thing in the context of the Old Testament. So he is the patriarch over the tribe of Midian. So Abraham had his son Midian. His eldest son would have become patriarch. His eldest son would have become patriarch. We're talking about Isaac, Jacob, Levi, Korah, Amram, Moses. 6 generations from Abraham. Jethro, or as his name is given here, Reuel, he is the generation of Amram. So, but he is the patriarch or the leader of the tribe of Midian. And Moses marries his daughter Zipporah. Verse 23, And it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. Okay, it seems to me that the standing order of tossing all the male children into the river when they're born, that probably was a standing order during the lifetime of that Pharaoh. Now, did they get all the male children? Unlikely. Moses was hid and preserved, and probably others were as well. And I don't think it was just a constant thing. It was probably on and off, And I don't think the Egyptians really liked the idea myself either, but, it was the king's order. So, but that is the second chapter, and we will pick it up in the next video.